Ma'am, I agree with your observation. But here's the best part. I think our partnership, one of the things we're trying to do is to look at how this new technology can actually do it. How can we use it to save the Balili River? How can we use it to save the forest? And we actually think we've found a way to do it, and that's part of what our partnership will look at in the future. I'm also old enough to have, there are only 8 themes around the world for every story. It's universal. And I've done so many of these 8 themes, and we've lived through them in the cycle since 1986. We're at a stage now where we can actually act on it and not just talk about it, not just write about it. We can write about it. The journalists will continue doing that, but I think we now have the power to do more with the technology that's available. So yes, please be impatient. I think we can push it together. I think that we can use the new technology to actually focus on what needs fixing that institutions may not look at. That's the first. The second point you brought up was just about having to make it sexy. Unfortunately, the problem is going to be there for as long as people are there. I started the presentation by saying that we are all becoming dopamine junkies. We are all on social media expecting a higher level of emotional connectivity. And part of the reason, say, the primetime newscast will ask you for a sexy approach is because that's what they're catering to. That's what you need to do to get eyeballs. We think there may be another way, and you can actually do that. But that doesn't mean that we need to, there will always be a competition. Our biggest challenge now with the internet is making sense of the chaos. And making sense of that chaos will require people you trust with the credibility to help you make sense of it. And that's where your organizations can come in.
Thank you. Thank you, Chancellor, for that comment. We'll have the last question, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Peter Puson. I'm a writer, and I also publish a newsletter. I'm not into internet at all and all of that, but I plan to. I'm sold on internet and all that. I eventually will, But so I'm more of a print advocate probably. Anyway, I don't even do computers actually. But anyway, my question would be, what would you say would be the role of print in this sort of thing? I mean, or in the future? Because actually, I'm thinking that with everybody being a publisher on the internet, everybody can publish. It would be the people who are not there, who are still the elite, I guess. Thank you.
I think the future of print would be the values of print, which is really what online media sometimes lacks, which is what your traditional news gathering process, which is airtight, diba? Stricto. That's your traditional journalism that really ensures accuracy, fairness, listening to all sides. Those are the values from the print medium, which was the first medium anyway. And so that's the history, that's the legacy of print that will carry on, that continues to carry on TV and online. I come from print, I come from the Inquirer, I come from the Manila Times, and I'm a print baby. But now I'm a social media baby also. So that's the value. But on the other hand, the future, well, globally, all newspapers are trying to adapt. And I think the key there is adapt. How do you adapt? How do you deal with change? The New York Times, the Inquirer, they all have their applications on iPad. They're going online. They have their own radio stations. They're doing multi-platforms, trying to reach out to audience whenever they want. So I think it's there. Maybe a lot of the cynics are actually they do foresee the death of print, and they're saying they're seeing the death of print, but probably not, because if you look at, I think it's very contextual. If you look at certain countries in England, for example, The tabloids are still raking it in. The magazines in England, The Economist, for example, has never, it's been its best year in 2010. So but it's their ability to use social media again to enhance their print products. So it's a give and take, diba? Pero yun, I think it's the traditional values of print journalism that will persist because in the end, because of the noise, people will go for quality content and then context, which print journalism has always adhered to. Thank you.
And I must add, like, we come from Newsbreak, which started out print, and we went online. And I totally fell in love with the medium. And
I think I am the youngest of all four of us. But
You are?
Occasionally. Okay. But I suspect I'm the most loyal to print of all of us. I'd rather, given a choice, I will write. And I think I'm the only one who insists on a paper and pen. I mean, a sheet of paper and pen. My thing is, I don't think print will ever die. For as long as you want to read, for as long as you like words, whether it's words in a documentary or a headline or a column somewhere, for as long as you have a love affair with the spoken language, I don't think it'll ever die. It'll just change.
I'll just, there's one last point I wanted to make that I'll try to make quickly. This is about us again and about our society. Stanley Milgram, who's a psychologist, came out with a study, this was decades ago, where he said that if you get a group of people together, and I would wager this will be higher with a Filipino group of people, if you get a group of people together and you give them a task, 75% of the people, at least 75%, will say wrong is right if the group says so. So look at that. The task that he gave was for them to just decide which line is the shortest. The shortest line, right? And what the test case didn't realize that the rest of the group was primed to say that the longest line is the shortest. Okay, so if I'm the test case, I'm given some 5 lines, and then I'm asked, which line is the shortest? I know which line is the shortest, right? But the whole group around me says that the longest line is the shortest line. 3/4 of us will actually say what the group says. This is human nature. So I guess one of the things I'd love to leave you with is stand up and say what you believe. This is actually what the internet, what new media, and what social media can allow you to do now. Don't follow the crowd. The wisdom of crowds, the wisdom of the individual. It is still the individual with the courage to stand up against the crowd that creates change. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Maria just wrapped up the session, which I was supposed to do. Our volunteers are still out there shooting their own story, and they'll be here in a minute to present to us their work. Thank you very much for all your questions. Thank you for your presence. And we'd like to call the Dean of the College of Arts and Communications, Dr. Purificacion de Lima, to give her closing remarks.